everyone, welcome back. Today we are diving into some exciting news from Ainos Inc.
Good.
You've been wanting to learn more about their work
Yeah.
on a potential new treatment for Sjögren syndrome.
Okay.
So we pulled together a couple of recent press releases to break it all down for you. One covers a new clinical trial in Taiwan, and the other a strategic partnership that could really boost their efforts.
It's fascinating to see a company like Ainos taking such a comprehensive approach. They're not just focused on the science, but also on the practical steps needed to actually get this treatment into the hands of people who desperately need it.
Right, because developing a groundbreaking drug is only half the battle, wouldn't you say?
It really is.
So before we jump into all the exciting details, let's make sure we're all on the same page. Can you give us a quick rundown on what Sjögren syndrome is and why this new treatment is such a big deal?
Absolutely. Sjögren syndrome is an autoimmune disease where your body essentially attacks itself, specifically those glands that keep your eyes and mouth moist. It can sound kind of minor at first, but imagine constantly dealing with sandpaper dry eyes.
Oh, wow.
And a mouth that feels like the Sahara Desert. It impacts every aspect of daily life. Eating, speaking, even sleeping.
Wow. That puts it into perspective. And it's not just a handful of people, right?
Right.
These press releases mention that millions globally are affected, with a sizable portion being middle-aged women.
That's right.
In Taiwan alone. There are about 90,000 people battling this condition.
That's right. And those numbers are expected to grow in the coming years, which means the demand for effective treatments is only going to increase. And that's where Ainos comes in with their potential game changer, Veldona.
So tell us more about Veldona. What makes it different from existing treatments for Sjögren syndrome?
Veldona is a low-dose oral interferon alpha. And what's really exciting is that it's designed to address the root cause of Sjögren's, that immune system malfunction. Current treatments mainly focus on managing the dryness symptoms, but Veldona aims to actually modulate the immune response itself.
So it's not just masking the problem, it's potentially fixing it at the source.
That's a great way to put it.
Now, the press release mentions that Ainos already ran some clinical trials in the U.S. What can you tell us about those?
Ainos conducted 3 phase 3 trials in the U.S., and the results are definitely encouraging. One trial saw a significant increase in salivary flow in patients taking Veldona. Another showed that Veldona was really well tolerated, with no serious side effects.
That's huge, especially for a condition that requires long-term management. If you're going to be taking something for years, it needs to be both effective and be safe.
Exactly. And importantly, in another trial, patients reported significant improvements in their overall oral comfort. So it seems to be hitting on both the objective, measurable aspects like salivary flow and the subjective experience of those debilitating dryness symptoms.
So with these promising results from the U.S. trials, Ainos is now expanding the research to Taiwan. Makes sense given the number of people affected there. This new clinical trial is taking place at Chuangho Hospital, which is affiliated with Taipei Medical University. I know you were particularly intrigued by some aspects of this trial's design. What stood out to you?
Well, first of all, I think it's smart that they're working. With such a respected institution, Taipei Medical University is a leader in medical research, so that adds a lot of credibility to this study.
And they're aiming to start enrolling patients as early as April 2025.
Right.
That's ambitious. They're not wasting any time.
And here's where it gets interesting for me. They're using a range of measures to assess Veldona's effectiveness. They're not just looking at whether it increases saliva production. They're also using questionnaires and even nuclear medicine imaging.
Hold on. Nuclear medicine imaging. You'll have to break that down for me.
It's pretty cool, actually. They basically use a special type of scan to visualize the salivary glands. It's a much more precise way to see if and how Veldona is impacting those glands compared to just measuring saliva output.
So they're really pulling out all the stops to get a complete picture of how Veldona works. But 24 patients, isn't that a pretty small number for a clinical trial?
That's a good question. While it might seem small, it's actually pretty standard for early-stage trials. It allows researchers to closely monitor the participants and gather detailed data on the treatment's effects.
And of course, we can't forget the big news about their partnership with Taiwan Tanabe Seiyaku, which is a subsidiary of Mitsubishi Tanabe Pharma Corporation.
Wow.
That's a pretty major player. In the pharmaceutical world, what does this partnership mean for Veldona's future?
This is a strategic move that could really pay off. Taiwan Tanabe Seiyaku brings a ton of experience in manufacturing and marketing pharmaceuticals, especially in the Asian market.
So not only could they help Ainos produce Veldona on a larger scale, but they also have the expertise to navigate the regulatory landscape and get it into the hands of patients more quickly.
Exactly. It's a classic win-win. Ainos gets access to resources and expertise they might not have on their own,
Yeah.
and Taiwan Tanabe Seiyaku gets to be part of bringing a potentially groundbreaking treatment to market.
So we've got this promising treatment, a well-designed trial, and a strong partnership in place. You know, sometimes I get so caught up in the technical stuff that I forget about the human side of things. But ultimately, that's what really matters, right?
Absolutely. It's easy to get lost in the details of clinical trials and market projections. But we can't forget that there are real people out there struggling with this condition every single day.
And for them, Veldona could be life-changing. We're not just talking about a little more saliva here. We're talking about potentially improving their quality of life in a significant way.
Exactly. Imagine being able to enjoy a meal without constantly sipping water, or having a conversation without your mouth feeling like it's full of cotton balls.
Yeah?
Those simple pleasures that most of us take for granted are often a daily struggle for people with Sjögren's.
And it's not just the physical symptoms either. The press release touched on how this condition can impact mental and emotional well-being too.
That's right. The constant discomfort, the fatigue, the social awkwardness that can come with dry mouth and eyes, it can all take a toll. It can lead to social isolation, anxiety, even depression.
So an effective treatment could have a ripple effect, improving not just physical health, but also mental and emotional well-being, relationships, work life, everything.
Absolutely. And that brings us back to the market analysis we touched on earlier. The global market for Sjögren syndrome treatment is projected to reach billions of dollars in the next few years. If Veldona proves to be as effective as we hope, it could capture a significant chunk of that market.
Now, I'm no business expert, but that sounds like a pretty big deal.
It is.
Not just for Ainos, but for the healthcare industry as a whole.
And the financial success could then fuel further research and development, potentially leading to even more innovative treatments for Sjögren's and other autoimmune diseases.
Speaking of other autoimmune diseases, I remember you saying that Veldona's success could have implications beyond just Sjögren's. Can you elaborate on that a bit?
Of course. Veldona is based on low-dose interferon alpha, a type of drug that has shown promise in treating a whole range of conditions, from hepatitis to certain types of cancer. So if it proves to be safe and effective for Sjögren's, it could open up exciting new avenues for exploring its use in other autoimmune diseases.
That's really fascinating. We're talking about potentially impacting the lives of millions of people who suffer from these, often debilitating conditions.
And this is where I think Ainos' forward-thinking approach really shines by focusing not just on the science, but also on manufacturing and market access. Through their partnership with Taiwan Tanabe Seiyaku, they're setting themselves up to make a real difference.
It's like they've thought of everything. It makes me wonder, what are some of the challenges they might face as they move forward?
Well, one hurdle they'll have to overcome is regulatory approval. Even with promising trial results, getting a new drug approved can be a lengthy and complex process. They'll need to demonstrate to regulatory agencies like the FDA that Veldona is both safe and effective for long-term use.
That makes sense. And I imagine there will be logistical challenges too, right? Manufacturing and distributing a new drug on a large scale is no easy feat.
They'll need to ensure they have robust manufacturing processes in place to meet the potential demand, and they'll need to establish distribution networks to get the treatment to patients all over the world.
It's mind-boggling when you think about all the moving parts involved in bringing a new drug to market.
It really is. And then, of course, there's the question of cost. Innovative treatments like Veldona are often expensive to develop and manufacture. So pricing it in a way that makes it accessible to patients, while also allowing Ainos to recoup their investment, will be a delicate balancing act.
That's a really important point. It's all well and good to have a revolutionary treatment, but it needs to be affordable for the people who need it most.
Exactly. And that's where partnerships, like the one with Taiwan Tanabe Seiyaku, can be so valuable. By working with established players in the pharmaceutical industry, Ainos can potentially leverage their existing infrastructure and resources to bring down costs.
It's encouraging to hear that they're taking such a comprehensive approach, considering all these different factors.
Absolutely. It's a testament to their commitment to making a real difference in the lives of people with Sjögren's syndrome.
You know, we're talking about all this exciting progress, but it's important to remember that this is still a clinical trial.
You're absolutely right.
And we need to wait for the results
Yeah.
before making any definitive claims. about Veldona's effectiveness.
Science takes time, and we need to be patient. But the fact that they're moving forward with this trial, especially in collaboration with such a strong partner, speaks volumes about their confidence in Veldona's potential.
And it's not just about Veldona, right? This trial is also contributing to a wider body of research that's helping us better understand Sjögren's syndrome and autoimmune diseases in general.
Every clinical trial, every bit of data we gather, brings us one step closer to finding more effective treatments and ultimately a cure for these conditions.
Okay, so we've talked about the potential impact of Veldona on Sjögren's syndrome treatment, the exciting possibilities for treating other autoimmune diseases, and the challenges Ainos might face as they move forward. What's the one key takeaway you want our listener to walk away with today?
For me, it's the power of hope, even in the face of a chronic, often debilitating condition like Sjögren's syndrome. There's reason to be optimistic. Scientists are making incredible strides in understanding autoimmune diseases, and innovative treatments like Veldona are on the horizon. It's a reminder that while the journey may be long, there's always hope for a brighter future.
It's inspiring to see how Ainos is approaching this challenge with such a blend of scientific rigor and genuine compassion.
They clearly understand that behind every diagnosis, there's a human being hoping for a better tomorrow.
It makes you realize that scientific advancements aren't just about numbers and data, but about real people and the potential to transform their lives.
Precisely. And that brings us back to you. We've explored Ainos' work, their potential breakthrough with Veldona, and the wider implications for Sjögren's syndrome treatment.
We've covered the science, the market potential, the challenges, and most importantly, the human impact. But there's always more to think about, right?
Always. And that's why we want to leave you with something to ponder, considering the global prevalence of Sjögren's syndrome and the limited treatment options currently available. What could the success of Veldona mean for patients and the entire healthcare landscape?
It's a big question, but one worth exploring. As we wrap up this deep dive into the world of Ainos and their work on Veldona, we encourage you to keep learning, keep asking questions, and stay tuned for more fascinating discoveries in the world of science and innovation. Until next time.
Do you want a deep dive podcast like this? Contact Bull Run by Charlie DeVanzo.